If you're like me, you're ready to go back to school. Like, really ready. Eventually we'll have to get up early, you know, brush our hair, put on nice clothes, and head to school. But we all know school will be a bit different because of the coronavirus. When the day comes and you start complaining that your mask is maybe a little too itchy, or your teacher is maybe a little too strict, I want you to learn about school way back when. I'm talking 200 years ago. Might even stop your complaining.
So we are standing here down in the French Quarter with my stepdaughter, Vivian. Say hi, Vivian. Hi. Unfortunately, what we're about to talk about is not good. We're talking about education, and in the 1800s, enslaved children were not educated. And in fact, most of the states in the Southern Confederacy had laws that prevented kids from being taught to even learn how to read or write.
Like in Alabama, you could get up to 1 year in jail for teaching an enslaved person how to read or write. Or in North Carolina, if you were enslaved and you learned how to read or write, you could get up to 39 lashes with a whip.
Yeah, and that was all over the South. And in fact, Louisiana, part of the South, did have some of those laws. In an article dated April 26, 1839, a statement of what Louisiana's laws were, it says, in Louisiana, the penalty for instructing a free black in a Sunday school is, for the first offense, $500, for the second offense, death. Keep in mind that's instructing a free black kid, and that's also the person who is instructing them. That doesn't say anything about the punishment that an enslaved child would get for learning how to read and write.
I never went to, he can tell you, I never went to school an hour in my life. Not an hour.
Well, could you read and write?
I can read and write too. I can send a letter all over this world if I just know what to send it. Of course, I can't write it, put it like people do. But anywhere I know what to send it, I can send it.
Well, how'd you learn to write?
Well, my daddy just turned me how to spell. He's little at night. But after that, then he set copies, and I take copies and just learn myself.
If you were enslaved living in New Orleans, you probably would have lived in something that was called the slave quarters. And I'm going to go across the street and show you what the slave quarters are.
So these slave quarters are these large buildings in the back of the houses that most of the enslaved people lived in back then. Usually, the owners of these enslaved people would live in the front of the house, fanning the fire, even sometimes cooking. Oh, dumping out the chamber pots. It's like an ancient toilet. There were exceptions to this. And in fact, if you look over there, if you look over there, turn that way. You look that way.
Okay, well. So if you look behind me at this building, this is the Ursuline Convent, and that was actually one of the first places that offered education for enslaved girls. Not the boys, the girls. So they had schools for poor kids and for enslaved kids, where they could learn how to read and write, and they would learn about Catholicism and the Bible. So that was right there. They actually still have a school today. So Ursuline Academy is one of the biggest schools in the city. And we're going to go to another spot in the city in the French Quarter where they also offered school and education for enslaved kids. It was also run by nuns. Okay, the sun is in my eyes, but I do want you to notice that St. Louis Cathedral is right there. We are standing on Orleans Avenue. This is the widest street in the French Quarter. This is kind of the main street in the French Quarter. And this is where they also had another school for enslaved children. We're standing in front of the building that was run by the Sisters of the Holy Family.
So in addition to the Ursuline Convent, there was a school run by a free woman of color named Henriette Delille.
Oh boy. Okay, so Henriette Delille started a religious order called the Sisters of the Holy Family, and it's right in this beautiful building. This is the Bourbon Orleans Hotel. We're the best. Okay, reporting to you live now from Fencing Alley, the Exchange Alley in the French Quarter. We are now going to talk about
The Creole boys. They're boys that are of French descent but were born in Louisiana.
okay, what kind of education did they get?
A proper formal education, and around age 6 they were sent to either Paris or Canada. Boys were trained to take over their father's business and become rich, well-mannered men. This might include fencing. In fact, this alleyway was a popular spot for
respecting lady would go to a ball that didn't have security.
And that brings us to our Creole Girls. Get ready! This year, you guys might be a little grateful for your masks and maybe your strict teachers once you learn about Creole Girls. Creole Girls, like us this past spring, were taught at home. But they didn't have tech like Zoom, Google Classroom, and iReady. They had to learn from their home. Did they learn math? No. Did they learn history? No. Well, surely they learned English. Of course not. New Orleans was a predominantly French city. It was kind of like a suburb of Paris. Fancy, you knew your French. Like this old lady, Madame Gerard, who you could often find walking around the French Quarter, would come to their houses and teach them. She would teach them French. They learned sewing, manners, etiquette, and more. And in fact, they had over 40 ballrooms in New Orleans in the 1830s and only a handful of schools. And I'm standing right in front of one of the most beautiful balls, the Orleans Ball. This makes me want to go back to school even more.